All staying with us right here on Morning at NTV, the number one platform in the country that is geared towards acquainting you with that information that you need to conquer your day, conquer your week, vis-a-vis conquer your careers. Well, yes, I'm here with Pavlos Trulis. He is the country director for SOS Contact, and we want to talk about sustainable cocoa and beekeeping in Uganda. But first of all, what is the SOS Contact? Very good morning, Pavlos. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you, Roman. Thanks for having us.
Indeed. Who is Pavlos Trulis? Would like to know, my viewers actually would like to know who you are and what is the SOS Contact and the kind of work you're doing in Uganda.
Sure, thank you.
Indeed.
So I'm the country director of SOS Contact. I'm originally from Greece, but I obviously represent a Swiss organization here in Uganda.
Because it's diverse. Amazing.
Absolutely. So we are an international non-governmental organization. We're an NGO.
Yes.
We've been operating since 1959, based and headquartered in Switzerland. But you'd be happy to know that we've been in Uganda for nearly 25 years
Indeed,
now.
Since 1997.
Absolutely. We beyond Uganda, we operate in 120, we actually run 120 projects, and we are in 39 countries.
I see.
In Uganda at the moment, we have 5 projects. And what we would like to say is, although there is no physical Swiss government presence in Uganda,
yes,
we are committed to Uganda, and we have been over the past 25 years, and we intend to continue our operations here in Uganda.
I see.
So in terms of what we offer, because people ask, okay, you're an NGO, but what do you actually offer? So we do a few things. We do develop projects, international development projects, and we implement them. But we also provide consulting, advisory support, research and training. Our mission that basically is driven by these 4 things that we do is to promote inclusive, economic, social and ecological development, to drive widespread prosperity, and Uganda is one of the main countries.
Indeed.
That we do this.
And you said you're implementing 5 projects at the moment in Uganda. Could you break them down for us?
Yes, sure. So we have projects in skilling. So we are skilling youth.
I see.
So the target is unemployed youth, youth below the poverty line, who require skilling to be able to produce sustainable income and be able to liaise directly with the private sector.
That's a big number of people. We're talking about 7 to 8% of my young people in this country being below the age of 30. So you're looking at a big chunk of individuals you're going to be skilling. When you talk to them, do they say that skilling is the only challenge that they grapple with as young people? Is it a factor that they give out as to why they are unemployed? Is it only skilling?
So we have a few issues there, right? So one is skilling, the other one is how they can have access to information.
Amazing.
How they can get access to markets. Quite frequently they ask us, how can I be connected to this particular agribusiness that will be able to purchase my produce?
I love that.
Quite frequently we hear about things they have, and some issues they face with the financial sector. So how can we build our asset base? How can we understand how to get bank loans? How can we get bank accounts? So they have a number of issues, and they are kind of trapped in a cycle of poverty, a cycle of less information, and quite frequently not particularly of great help in terms of building their skill sets.
Indeed. And of course you're doing amazing work because we've investigated as Morning at NTV as, you know, some of the development projects that we had already here, courtesy of the government. You had the MYOGA, Youth Livelihood Fund, but they were not largely working for the youth, mainly because we were giving these young people money minus skilling them. You understand? Giving them the knowledge to actually put this money to good use. So many of whom were just using the money recklessly. And these businesses were not seeing their first birthday in that regard because they didn't get the skill to begin with, but they had the money. So when you give them the skills, are you giving them the money too to help them go start some projects?
Yeah, which is a great question.
Indeed.
So always it's good to have the finance and the skilling together.
Amazing.
And this is a great point to start.
Indeed.
So we do give money, but we give money in a market-driven way. So we understand where the demand is, and we work very closely with the private sector to do that.
Indeed.
And then we work backwards and we say, okay, now how can we bring these 2 sides together, the youth and the private sector? So we use a tool that we call it business case.
All right.
So let's say you are the owner of an agribusiness, and I'm like, Romeo, I would add X amount of money, X amount of shillings in a business case, and the goal is to help you grow your business, but at the same time employ a number of youth or purchase their produce.
I
The
see.
youth put in some money or in-kind contribution, and then we have a joint business case, and we all strive to achieve the same objectives.
Amazing.
So that's how we tend to do it.
I love that. And also that is the area of skilling. Number 2 is entrepreneurial ecosystem. What happens there?
Right. So with entrepreneurship, so what we do is beyond just skilling in terms of the technical skilling, we provide support through entrepreneurship training.
I see.
For example, we have David from Luero.
Oh yeah, David, go ahead.
So David is essentially producing chili, and he is producing chili and hot pepper based on the technical support that SOS Contact has provided.
Indeed.
Beyond that, we trained David in entrepreneurship, and we used a number of private sector players to train David.
All right.
Now David used the learnings, and he decided to diversify into pineapple farming.
So David said, I'm not only going to be growing chili, let me also diversify to pineapple, based on the knowledge you gave him.
Correct.
All right.
And David did such a great job. He was actually the winner of an agribusiness challenge fund we had in 2020.
Yes.
And he used the proceeds of these to basically buy irrigation kit and then move on to tomato production. So we have David, who started from Luero, who started being an out-of-school youth, and then he is now producing and marketing 3 different crops.
And this is what we call climate smart farming, isn't that right?
Well, it has a significant component of climate smart farming because of all the practices the private sector we partner with is equipping David with.
Indeed.
And it helps him diversify and use climate smart technologies
Indeed.
and climate smart irrigation to be able to produce these results.
Indeed. All right, let's also talk about sustainable agriculture.
Okay, sustainable agriculture. So we have a number of projects on that front, and this is not just about our target segments. This is also about the businesses.
I see.
So we have a leading beekeeping honey company in Uganda.
All right.
And their goal was essentially, as most businesses, to grow. So how can they do this? They need more honey. They need to purchase more honey. So they have an actual gap there.
Yeah.
At the same time, you have Prudence from Rubirizi,
Yeah.
who basically did not have the hives to produce honey and did not have all the know-how. So we paired them up. The company provided subsidized hives to Prudence, and the company also provided quite a bit of extension support to understand how to harvest honey, how to set up the hives so the bees can go in there and produce honey. As a result of this matchmaking, if you like, Prudence was able to sell quite a bit of honey quite quickly and be able to sustain their her 5 kids within the first year. And at the same time, the company has been able to grow through people like Prudence, buying more honey off of them and helping them with all the support they need to make it happen.
And of course, you did mention extension services somewhere, and we also do know for sustainable agriculture to take center stage, there has to be, extension services that are actually a must in that regard. What do you make of the extension services in Uganda? Do you think they are resilient enough right now?
So extension services is a key area, and it's particularly important for productivity increases. So as we know, there are a number of gaps around the production potential, the productivity potential we have in the country. There is obviously lots of place for improvement, and we have been trying a few different models involving the private sector and the government, which we feel have been yielding quite significant results. So clearly there is the need to improve productivity and increase production in certain sectors, but there is also importantly the need to diversify and look at different models, peer-to-peer models, private sector and government hybrid models of delivery.
I see.
And I think it's entirely up to the different stakeholders to make this work and fulfill its actual potential.
All right, we are still take a look at the working areas. And number 4 is trade. What happens there?
Trade, obviously, we are blessed in Uganda because Uganda is one of the most entrepreneurial countries.
Indeed.
And there is quite a bit of trade there. With all the private sector partners we work with, they have encountered a number of issues that relate to the time and the cost it takes for them to export.
All right.
So we have been working with some key government ministries, the Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Agriculture, to be able to reduce the time and the cost it takes for the private sector to export key commodities.
Indeed.
Let's say you want to export chili or hot pepper in Europe.
Or my cocoa.
Or your cocoa.
Indeed.
And this process can be quite cumbersome, quite bureaucratic.
Indeed.
So we're working with these government agencies and the private sector to reduce all the time and cost it takes.
I see. And the green cities, that is also another item in your working areas as SOS Contact. What is entailed here?
So green cities is a kind of relatively new area for us. Although we've been working with sustainable agriculture for a number of years,
Indeed.
green cities is a new concept that we bring in to make cities more sustainable.
I see.
To understand holistically how can we make cities greener. And this entails the financing part, it entails recycling, waste management, among a number of other issues. But key in this approach is to engage the private sector and understand how the private sector, alongside the government, local and federal government, alongside the beneficiaries, they can all contribute to this end and have a sustainable way of making cities greener, essentially.
So real estate should also put into account the issue of climate change as we are building. It has to be actually real estate that is cognizant of the fact that climate change is also still rearing its very, very ugly head in that regard. And what about tourism, the last one?
Tourism is a really important area, and it's an area which is very close to me because obviously I'm not Ugandan, and I was really attracted by Ugandans' wealth in terms of attractions.
All right.
So we've been working in tourism across Uganda, and the goal there was essentially to how can we skill youth? How can we skill youth in this space? So we worked with cooks, we worked with housekeepers, and we worked with tour guides. And how did we do this? We basically introduced curriculum to help them standardize what they were learning so that they're able to deliver a better quality service.
Indeed. Of course, you've been here since 1959 globally, all right, and in Uganda since 1997. Tell us about some of the achievements you've actually garnered over those years.
Yeah,
how many people have you reached out to?
Thank you. Great question. So I won't take you back 25 years. I'll just focus on the on the most recent
2020
term. So over the past 7 years, we have been able to reach about 80,000 people.
I see.
Directly. With partners, we reached about 200,000. Of these 80,000 we reached directly, it's worth mentioning that 34% of them were women.
Because these are largely the group in the agriculture sector.
Correct.
Indeed. Go
Correct. Ahead. Of these, 44,000 were able to realize quite significant income increase. So over the past 7 years, they were able to realize 52 billion shillings income increase as a result of our programs.
Indeed. Go ahead.
So these are some of the key kind of high-level results for Uganda. Obviously, there are a number of other things that we did around skilling, skilling and helping enterprises grow in terms of increasing the revenue and the
household incomes to 52 billion Uganda shillings. That is quite a milestone. Talk to me about the work you've been doing in the refugee camps. I've been itching to know more about that. Your work in the refugee camps. What are some of the challenges you've encountered?
So yes, we do. So. This is a really important area for us because there are obviously Uganda is one of the most progressive countries when it comes to
open
policy
borders,
around refugees. But there are also a significant number of needs there.
Indeed.
So the handout approach, whereby we give refugees a number of things to survive, is working, and it's great.
Indeed.
But unfortunately the budget is being reduced.
Indeed.
So what we're trying to do now is we're trying to work with different partners, with the government, to be able to provide private sector support to the refugees so they can create incomes and food security for themselves. For example, we have engaged in mushroom production.
Indeed.
So we get refugees to work with the private sector to produce and sell mushrooms. And this has given quite strong results worth about $300 per month from month one. So we would like to do this much more with UNHCR and a number of other partners to be able to provide a sustainable way out of this dependency.
Indeed. We'd also like to know you have an event coming in tomorrow, largely dependent on investment. What is it about?
Indeed. So we have an event tomorrow, and we're very proud that we're holding this event because it brings together a number of stakeholders from the private sector, from the government.
Indeed.
So this event is about investment in the cocoa and the honey value chain.
Indeed.
So what we're trying to do there, we've been working in these two sectors for about 10 years now, and the idea there is to do a bit of matchmaking.
I see.
So SOS Contact has been investing, as I told you earlier, a lot in these two sectors. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to say we have some really credible and investable business that we worked here, but we've also worked with a number of financiers. So it's important to know what the financiers are looking in businesses to invest, and for the businesses to understand what the financiers are looking into, and also for the average Ugandan who may be looking to enter into these sectors. What are the opportunities? What are some of the barriers? How much would they need to invest? How much would they get out of this sector?
Okay, this average Ugandan in your midst, Romeo Busiku, yes, is clamoring to join the cocoa growing industry. My studio director, who is, manning all the machines right now, Sebachizye Daniel, is actually a beekeeper and a bee farmer, if you will, and he would like to get some pointers on how to access this capital if it's there. What is the criteria to be followed if I want to join this event and listen into some of the deliberations and even access to capital, SOS Contact? What does someone do if they want to actually join?
Well, I think the first step is I would invite you and encourage you to attend the event tomorrow.
Where are we?
We are at Kampala Serena, and there is a Zoom link which is circulating by your station.
Indeed, time?
So it's between 9 and 2 o'clock.
All right.
And there I think you'll be able to find lots of answers to your questions.
Indeed. All right. We will be live tomorrow. So indeed, if you need some information on cocoa growing, beekeeping in that regard, please look no further than the Kampala Serena Conference Center Hotel tomorrow. Pavlos Atrolis will also be there, the country director of SOS Contact, and many other stakeholders with a lot of information in the same spheres. Thank you very much for coming through, Pavlos.
Thank you.
And indeed, you're still watching Morning at NTV. Let's take a breather. We'll be right back.